You are listening to Exploring Sacred with your host, Denise Iwana Francisco, on the Temple Within Radio and Digital Media Network, giving voice to the sacred.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Exploring Sacred. Welcome to a beautiful brand new day and an icy day here in West Michigan. The forest, the enchanted forest behind me is covered in ice. The trees are laden with it. It looks more like the crystal forest than it does just the enchanted forest this morning. So I'm coming at you live via my smartphone rather than my computer because we are running on generator here in the enchanted forest. But the important part is we're together, everybody is safe, and today we're going to be talking about the calling of our ancestors. I really like that topic, and thank you to Kelly Spencer for suggesting maybe we continue to talk about it for a bit. So with that, everybody, I invite you to take a moment just to get comfortable in your own body, and get comfortable in your surroundings, and take a breath, and maybe invite your ancestors to be present with you in this moment. Good, kind, and loving ancestors to be present with you, sharing their love, sharing their memories, sharing their stories, sharing their wisdom. I'm going to see if I can get the chat room to operate. Well, yes, I can. There it is. Good morning, girlfriend. Hey, Kelly Spencer. It's good to see you in the house. So I will leave the chat room up and see if I can share it from where I am. It looks like I can. If you're unfamiliar with how to get into the chat room, I'm going to go ahead and post this in the Temple Within Radio and Media group page. So if you go there, if you happen to be on Facebook, you can go ahead and join us in chat via this link. So Kelly, as I'm making the connection, what was it about the subject matter last week, or what is it about the subject matter that had you say to me over the chat room last week, Dee, maybe we should consider doing a series? Hello, Anissa. It's good to see you. Good to have you with me this morning, me and Kelly. So Kelly, if you could share about that. I know that you're Swedish and, Norwegian, and I'm sure some Swedish in there with your mother's side. German ancestry calls very strongly to you. And not only is it very present in your home, but it's very present in who you are, particularly the Norwegian ancestry. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit this morning. But the calling of our ancestors is something I feel is really deeply embedded in our fabric in society, at least here in the West these days. Because here in America, because we do live in a melting pot, as they say, the great melting pot, the great experiment, the United States. And, it's amazing how many of our ancestors came here to Turtle Island, to Native America, grandmother, and brought with them their stories, their spirituality, their wisdom, their histories. And how many of our ancestors left those things looking for something new, looking to do something new, to change things. And how many of our ancestors actually changed their name at Ellis Island, or their name was changed for them at Ellis Island. And so they were propelled into something new by virtue of having a modification of their last name or their first names, and some trying to join an enclave of their people here on these shores, and others saying, no, I'm going to head west, or at least as far west as I can get, to start something new, to leave the old country behind, the old wisdoms, the old stories behind. And now all of a sudden there's a resurgence here in the United States. For those of us that are part of the melting pot, because of our European or African or Asian, etc., our ancestry. We're asking the question, but who were they? Who am I because of them? Why don't I know their stories? Where are those stories? Has somebody kept those stories? What about the photographs? What about the artwork? What about the spirituality? Who were my people? Who were my people? Because who am I? I'm wanting to know that right now. I'm needing to know that right now. Good morning, Janet Smith. Kelly is saying, yes, exactly, but I also feel it rising to the surface with people as so many are looking for grounding. Yes, who are my people? Where are my people? And with DNA testing that we have available to us right now, a lot of those questions are being answered, at least up to a point. And depending on the DNA testing that you've taken. For me, I began with 23andMe to find out, that essentially my lineage goes back as far as they can trace it through my DNA to Africa and Sardinia. They're off the coast of Italy. And from then, of course, the Vikings swooped in and brought the people up to Scotland. And here I am now, right? And of course, to the United States. This need for grounding, this need to understand the bone of our bones and the blood of our blood, where does that come from? I believe it comes from a soul's need to connect. And with, I believe, at least from what I'm seeing and experiencing, people not being quite so materialistic here in the West due to the recent past, but really wanting to find something more meaningful than what is the latest high fashion or what is the latest and greatest reality show going on TV, looking for something deeper, something that feeds their soul, not necessarily something that feeds their ego or their need to consume. And perhaps the need to consume was because this piece was missing, this piece of who are my people? Where do I come from? Where is the grounding? Where is the ground that they walked on? And for many of us who travel, we understand we go to certain places and the ancestors call us from those places. One of my very favorite places on earth is Scotland, the Highlands of Scotland. And Todd and I plan to go back there. We're starting to plan our trip right now, frankly. But there's something about the Highlands of Scotland. There's something about the Badlands of South Dakota. There's something about Cornwall. What is it about that something? Well, I believe it's because the bones of our ancestors and the blood of our ancestors are there. And also here in the United States. Anissa is saying, we are seeking to belong to something more than America. I am in the same boat as Kelly with the Swede seer heritage. Absolutely. And Janet, our friend Janet, who's in the chat room, she is Scottish. And so she's a beautiful Scotswoman that I actually got to meet finally the last time that I was in Wales and Ireland. We met up in Wales. What is it? And you're right, Anissa. It's about wanting to know more, to be more than American. What is American anyway? Well, we know what Native American is. We know what Native South American is. We know what that is. But what do we bring? What do we bring? What do our ancestors bring? What is the wisdom that we bring? Frankly, since connecting with my biological family here in the States and learning more about my African roots and my Scottish roots and my British roots and my wonderful roots from the Netherlands, I've been asking myself the question, what is it that my ancestors brought here to this country? What is the wisdom? What are the stories? What are the songs? Who were they? What did they bring here? And how has it melted into this pot that we call it? Janet is saying, I'll have to make my way north and maybe get a chance to say hello again. That would be spectacular. absolutely spectacular. We're looking to fly into Inverness and spend some time on the Isle of Skye and up in that part of Glencoe. And as a member of Clan MacDonald, there's a part of me that wants to visit Glencoe and that history. To be there, to be present with that. I've been to Egypt a few times, so I know how it feels to be in the land of my African ancestors down there in Nubia, and of course to England, and of course out into the Southwest. But there's this beautiful thing. Good morning, Tana. Her father's parents came from Italy, La Familia. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's this wonderful feeling that we get when we meet people in the countries that we know we have a connection to. As an adopted person, I've kind of been flying blindly for 56 years, going by feel alone, going by smell, going by sensory perception. And, years ago when I met my mentor, Wakian Snamani, who was a Lakota holy man, and I said to him, why are you teaching me these ways, Wakian? Why are you saying I'm going to be a pipe carrier and you're going to teach me the ceremonies? And he looked at me and he said, because 7 generations ago, your people were Kiowa. 7 generations ago, your people were Kiowa. You have Kiowa ancestors in your blood, and I see them, and they work with you. And I also believe that 8 generations ago, your people were Blackfoot and Kiowa, and that's what I see. And whatever I teach you is going to meet up with your ancestors from the other places, and you're going to walk in a good way with this Chanupa, with your Kiowa ancestors, and your Blackfoot ancestors, and your African ancestors. He picked up on that right away. Right away. He said, your people are also African. I said, they are. I know they are. I can feel that they are. But what do I do with that? He said, you'll know what to do with it when the time comes, when you learn the whole story. When you learn the whole story. There's an interesting thing about our DNA and what calls to us from our ancestry. Clearly, if you look at me and if you know me, the people who see me, they see what they're familiar with. Isn't it interesting? When I travel to Egypt, I can't tell you how many times I am asked by Egyptian people, or I am told by Egyptian people, you're Egyptian, you're African. Yes, they see it in me. When I was in Italy, when I was in Greece, oh, you're Greek, you're Italian. I see that. Yes, you are. People can feel a familiarity. The land can feel a familiarity, and we can feel a familiarity with the land. On my father's side, my people have been here for well over 500 years. 500 years, that's a long time to be in one place. And so how does the ancestry of my foremothers and my forefathers, how does that now belong to America? And what does that mean? What does that mean? How do we interact with that? Our ancestors, I was thinking about this show this morning, and I thought to myself, isn't it interesting? Sometimes we can immortalize our ancestors in thinking that they were all very altruistic, they were wise, they were wonderful, and our ancestors were just like us. And I'm sure I have wonderful ancestors, wise ancestors, magical ancestors, etc., etc. But they were people. They were having a human experience. And every morning when I invite my ancestors, my good, kind, and loving ancestors to be present with me, I just sit for a moment. Tell me about my stardust. Tell me about who I am. What are the stories? What are the songs? And why are they important? Why are they important? I'm going to have a little look-see here in the chat room. Thank you for that, Janet. He hane washte chue Del Marie. My sister Del Marie is in the house. He hane washte. Kelly is saying, and for me, connecting with those ancients helped me makes sense with my deep spiritual self, the reason I felt spiritually connected to the earth, the elements of nature, the stars, the thunderers. That's right. That's right. Odin, Thor, Frey, right? All of these magnificent mythological archetypes and spiritual teachings are worldwide. They are global. They're global. And what do we do with that? How do we walk with that? Well, it's interesting. To me, it reminds me of the story of the whale nation. It is said by the old ones that the whales who inhabit the ocean and the seas bring the songs of the stars to Grandmother Earth, and they sing them in the oceans and the seas. They sing them. And it is true, my beautiful friend Jan Beaver, she's an Anishinaabe woman from Canada. I met her at Arvo Looking Horse's place a few years back. And every year she spends time on the island of Maui, but she goes out with the Oceanographic Society. And she noticed a couple of years ago, along with the society, that the whale songs had changed in the ocean. And not only had the whale songs changed, but they saw their very first white whale. And the old ones tell us that when the songs in the ocean that the whales are singing change, so have the alignments of the stars changed. They're bringing their star song to Earth. I believe that no matter where we're from, whether it's Zimbabwe, Tokyo, New Delhi, the Badlands, the Black Hills, wherever it happens to be, we've come here to Grandmother Earth to experience being human, but we've come here to experience something unique, a unique walk. And that we've come here to share those stories and those songs and those wisdoms that, if we look at them, are actually very similar. The stories are very much the same, only told slightly differently by the people of the land, by the animals of the land, by the trees of the land. And I believe myself, my understanding, as I've been thinking really heavily and deeply about this subject, that we really are walking in this time known as Mitakoye Oyasi, Mitakuye, and we are all related. Because isn't it amazing that if we're doing our 23andMe or our Nat Geo Ancestry or Ancestry.com, how much we're finding our stories and our songs only to find out that they're a whole lot alike our neighbor, someone we know, another family member from another tribe, how much alike they are, not how different they are, but how much alike they are. And in our humanity, whether it's a good thing or not, it's amazing how we find it easier to love and to be compassionate with those that are the same or similar. Well, now all of a sudden we're finding out, holy smokes, I didn't realize I was the same or similar to. And those people I swore I was never related to, well, guess what? There we have it. Dell is saying, one person can bring out the inquisitive question of ancestral lineage. I have so many people tell me they are Native American when they see me at work. Absolutely, Dell. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Isn't that a beautiful thing? I love that because they feel free. And you know, here in America, there are a lot of us, I don't know that it's true for me. I can't speak to that yet. But there are a lot of people who came to this country. Some of my relatives came here as slaves. Some of my relatives were slave owners. Some of my relatives were Irish, some of them Celt, some of them Black, some of them were already here as Native American people, First Nations people. But what we find is that some of them were ashamed of who they were when they came here to these shores, and they changed their story. They no longer had to be Irish when they got here. Some were ashamed of being Irish. Some were ashamed of being a variety of things. And so when they were asked what were they at Ellis Island, they changed it. They changed the story, hoping to change the course of who they were or who they were becoming. I think to Anissa's point and Kelly's point, the other thing that's really missing for a lot of people here in America, and this is just the way that I'm feeling about it, people are missing spirituality. And I don't mean religion. There's plenty of religion here in these United States. There's a whole lot of religion. But what about the spirituality? Where is the spirituality? What was the spirituality? Where's the magic? Where are the miracles? Where are the spiritual songs? Well, some of them came to the shores and they blended with others. Appalachian music, right, is a magnificent combination of Irish music and African music. And it's still alive and well in Appalachia here in the United States or down south. There's been a blending. I'm reading a book right now written by Silver Ravenwolf called Hexcraft. It's about the magic or the old religion that was brought here to the United States by the German people and brought by the German people here to Pennsylvania. William Penn, the father of Pennsylvania, right, created a state in which religious freedom was first and foremost, and still to this day in Pennsylvania, you don't have to jump through all the hoops and other things that you have to in the other 49 states in order to have religious independence or a religious, wouldn't call it a church, but a group, community, right? William Penn, and he designed it that way. And he brought people from Europe, from England, from Wales, from Scotland, from Germany, from those places to bring the old religion here. And the old religion of the German people came here and it blended with the religion of the Native American people. And it is still very alive and well in the Dutch or Deutsch counties in Pennsylvania, and it's known as powwow. And it's been known as powwow since before it arrived here in this country, which is interesting, isn't it? So it has been blended. There's been a blending. Finding the original strain of any form of spirituality is difficult, even in Native America. And maybe Del Marie can talk about that for a moment. And yes, Anissa, we're hungry for our own magic. Where is the magic? Where is the spirituality? I picked this book up. Actually, I had to find this book because it's no longer in publication. We travel through Pennsylvania Dutch country and we see those magnificent hex signs on the barns and on the buildings, and they're beautiful and they're sacred geometry and they're very potent in their magic. Most people don't understand that until they dig in and they take a good look at those signs on the barns and they understand exactly what was going on and why those were there and why they still are there. Yes, where is our magic? And using magic in the deepest sense of our connection to heaven and earth and in the bridging of the alchemy of our people, all of our people. Yeah, the crones. Yes, the crones. Kelly's talking about who are our crones? Who are the wise women? Where do those stories go that predate Christianity? Christianity is one of the youngest religions here on Grandmother Earth. It's only, just over 2,000 years old. So it is one of the younger world religions. What was it before that? Well, for those of you that study with Amantha Murphy here at the School of Sacred Studies, she does a beautiful job of teaching the ancient Irish communion with or connection with spirit. Some of us are traveling to Ireland this September. If you're interested in it, I have a couple of spots open. Give me a shout, Denise at deniseiwana.com. We have a couple of spots open to go to Ireland if you are so inclined. Kelly is saying, yes, I think people are craving something else, something that isn't about money, control, conformity. Yeah, it's about understanding their bones and their blood. It's about understanding bones and blood. And I think some of the pilgrims that came here, right? Oh, the pilgrims, that's part of the Netherlands story. Not all of it, but a part of it that came here and were very much wanting people to conform. Came here on basis of freedom of religion for many people here, and it became religion, and spirituality kind of went by the wayside, but we're craving it now. So when we're out in the forest, when we're out next to the ocean, our grandmothers, all those generations ago, who were they? How did they heal? Were they the village healers? How did they heal? Who did they heal with? When they were out in the stone circles, who were they there with? Who did they call to? Did they have names? Did they dance? Did they sing songs? Sometimes our ancestors call us through the music. Last week on the show, I was talking about how I feel whenever I hear even the beginning of a bagpipe. How I feel when I go to the powwow grounds and I smell the sage and I hear a drum begin to beat. Moves me to tears. It brings me to tears. How do I feel when I hear Gregorian chant, right, in Provence? How do I feel when I hear that? It brings me to tears. How do I feel when I hear a spiritual being sung, a hymn being sung by a black choir? Brings me to tears. Standing on the cliffs of Tintagel, just smelling the ocean. Smelling the ocean. Being on a boat, right, in the Highlands of Scotland, going out to one of the outlying islands, just standing out on the deck of the boat, smelling the ocean, being in the fog, brings me to tears. I don't think it's my own tears. Sometimes I think it's my ancestors that I carry with me that are also crying in remembrance of the sacred. I feel ultimately we call to our ancestors and our ancestors call to us to remember the sacred. And in the sacred are the stories, the spirituality, the crone, the wise elder, the love, the compassion, the connectedness, the interconnectedness, not division, not division. I watch with some of my Takojas, my Hunka grandchildren, and it's frustrating for me when I see that they suffer sometimes because they're told that their skin is too white. Your skin's too white. You're not Indian enough because your skin's too white. Your eyes aren't dark enough. Del Marie hears it because she doesn't live on the reservation. It doesn't matter if your skin is too white, if your skin is too black, if your hair is too blonde, your hair is too dark, it's too red, it's too curly. The fact of the matter is all of your ancestors are contained within you. DNA testing can pinpoint some of them, but not all of them. Yet, we don't necessarily need DNA testing to tell us who our ancestors are when we can feel who they are, when we're drawn to the magic, we're drawn to the spirituality, we're drawn to the hymns, we're drawn to a certain kind of person. Taking a look at what's on the outside of somebody, the color of their skin or the color of their eyes, or if they're more of one culture and not another, is really frustrating to me. It's hurtful. Our ancestors call to us through our blood and through our bones and through our spiritual DNA. Not necessarily, I believe, our physical DNA, but what about our spiritual DNA? Our spiritual DNA can go back a whole lot further than we can trace our grandfathers, our blood quantum, our DNA quantum. We have ancestral memories. We have ancestral DNA. And I believe through that we are called. I talk about the first time that I saw my sister Barbara Dullknife. I looked at that woman, Linda Griezak. If you're listening to me right now, you were there that day when we were in Kyle on the reservation. And Barbara walked in and I looked at Linda and I said, "Oh my God, Linda, I know her." And Linda said, "You do? How do you know her?" And I said, "I know her." And I became really emotional. And Linda said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I know her." And it wasn't, I know her from the grocery store. I know her because, being downtown Pine Ridge. My soul knew her. When I met Del Marie for the first time and I walked into Del Marie's house and she and Ken were preparing Indian tacos, I knew her. If I look at Ancestry.com, her face isn't going to pop up. But my soul knew her. Maybe one day when the technology is there. But technology is a beautiful thing, but our soul is even more beautiful. Ancestors, teach me your ways. I'm open to understanding. I'm open to learning. Bring the teacher to me who will teach me about my ancestral ways. And you need to be open to who shows up and when. I had no idea that Wakian Snamani would show up. No idea. And yet he did. Del Marie is saying, "It's so sad to know that many of the Black people do not know their ancestors like most of us do. I feel for them, but I think as they need to open up with their spirituality, as the ancestors will come to them in dreams and in thoughts." Absolutely. Anissa is saying, "My body remembers the people, the moments, the land, but my mind likes to convince me otherwise." Here's this great thing, Anissa. I'm so glad that you said that. As an adopted person, I was told who I was. And as I'm learning more about who I am, who I was told I was is vastly different. And I'm not saying that I was deceived intentionally. But adoptive parents are given certain sets of information, and that's what they share with their children. For the most part, I believe that to be true. And so that's what you're raised believing. But all along, and Kelly, you remember this, all along, even though I was told I was one thing, all along my soul knew something different. And exactly what Del Marie is saying. As a very young girl, I was visited. You all know that I'm clairvoyant. You all know that I have those abilities. That's my magic. That's my medicine. All along, I wasn't visited by people dressed like pilgrims in apparitions or nighttime or dream visitations. Not at all. I was visited by Native American people. I was visited by African people. I was always visited by people of color. And I drew them. I painted them. I recorded what they told me. Somewhere around this house in one of these boxes, the paintings and the drawings still exist. And I was made fun of by some in my family. You're wishful thinking, you're daydreaming, you're dreaming it up. That's not who you are. Only, Anissa, to find out all these years later, even though I was told I was one thing, my soul knew. My soul was spot on. I remember a relative telling me when I came back from Scotland, and I said, "I know I'm Scottish. I know that I am. I know that I am." And in fact, I purchased the Isle of Skye tartan. which the Queen Mum had recently recognized as an official tartan, for what that's worth. But anyway, I purchased it. I was drawn to it. Love it. I have it. I have the Tam O'Shanter. I have the wrap. Only to find out that the Clan MacDonald of the Isles, Lord of the Isles, their museum, the family museum, is on the Isle of Skye. Nobody told me that as a kid, that I was Scottish, or that I came from Clan MacDonald of the Isles, or that the clan home is on the Isle of Skye. I just found that out since December. And yet when I was on the Isle of Skye, I was compelled to buy that tartan and to be with that regalia of those people, my people, part of my people. In this country, we've learned not to trust our soul. We've learned to trust the hype. We've learned to trust the marketing and to doubt the wisdom of our own soul. As those of us that are in our 50s and 60s and 70s continue to age, guess what? We are the crone. And what do we have to offer the younger generation? Sometimes it's what our soul knows. And when we call upon the wise ancestors to help us, to teach us, they do come. And sometimes they have to come in dreams because they're no longer in bodies. And sometimes they had to hide their magic when they got here to Turtle Island. Or if you're listening from your home in Europe or Asia or Africa or Australia, perhaps they've had to hide it because of religious persecution. Here in Michigan, in the United States, it's the time of the eighth fire prophecy. The eighth fire prophecy says that the time of the original teachings of our people would come back. They'd come to the surface of all people. And they are. And how are they coming back to us? Through our DNA. Testing. Learning the truth of who we are, good, bad, or indifferent. When Todd said, I'm getting you an Ancestry.com kit, I thought, oh my goodness. Hold on, here we go, because it's very specific about relatives and things. Doesn't go back as far as 23andMe. According to 23andMe, at least half of my ancestors were only African until the 1400s. Well, that's a lot of time of being African, right? Love that. And you're right, Del Marie. A lot of African religion and spirituality came to this country. It became a different form of African spirituality, of African voodoo that became mixed with Catholicism. And those of you that are Baptist, believe it or not, voodoo, after the Civil War, became also blended. The African religions became blended with the Baptist religion and the Catholic religion. So there are hybrids of spirituality. And even here in Native America in Michigan, people have said to me, whoever has taught you the old ways has taught you the old ways long before, exactly what Kelly is saying. And Del can speak to the fact that here in Native America, because this is Native America, this is Turtle Island, the spirituality was stripped. And for a lot of people here in the United States, there's no even understanding that until 1979. That wasn't all that long ago, everybody. Native Americans could not practice their spirituality. They were arrested, they were beaten, they were tormented for practicing spirituality here in America. Here on Turtle Island. Think about that. So for a lot of Native Americans, they've also lost their spirituality, and there's a blending of spiritualities that's going on. There's a new sharing and a new blending. It's evolving. Some people are happy with that. Frankly, others are not. So yes, what Joaquin taught me is very, very old. And what my relatives teach me It's been interesting explaining to some of my biological relatives, Del Marie, about my Hunka relatives. They're very open and they're very wonderful about all of it. I see that you have sisters. I see that you have nieces and nephews that are Native American. Yeah. Isn't that marvelous? My soul knew. Your soul knew. And here we are. Okay, I guess I'm having to check here. Civilization. Drawing and painting your Native and Black ancestors. I was, absolutely. And this is a really great point, Anissa, coming from my Chue, my sister Del. Not only do our ancestors reach out to us to remind us who we are, they bring information to us to try to reconnect all of us. Yes. Absolutely. Kelly is saying, as I am learning and growing, I am sharing with the younger generations of my family. They sit with wide eyes and soak it all up. You can see the light bulbs going off in their minds. They are awakening and curious, and they say, oh, this makes so much sense. My son has said that to me recently, as I'm getting to know more about my biological family members from recent history. My ancient ancestors are no longer here, so they're having to teach me from where they are, in my dreams, in my inspirations, in my thoughts, in my journaling. It's why I travel. I love to travel. My dad, the Sarge, man, he was a gypsy. He had a gypsy soul. He loved to travel. And he encouraged all of us kids to travel and to learn and to know and to find out. And to find out. Janet is saying, Amen, Kelly. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. Why are our ancestors calling to us? I'm going to ask all of you that are in the chat room right now, why do you believe at this time, they call it the eighth fire prophecy, my Lakota relatives call it the return of the white buffalo calf teachings, Mitakoye Oyasi. Why do you believe right now, whether it's through DNA testing, through our dreams, through our interest, soul searching in songs and stories, why do you feel this is going on right now in the history of humanity here on Grandmother Earth? I'm curious what you all feel about that. You're all wise women that are in the chat room. I think one of the most beautiful things about the DNA testing is people are finding out, man, there's a lot of skeletons in a lot of closets, huh? Even the nightly news is reporting on what people are finding out through DNA testing. Right? Their father isn't who they thought their father was, or their mother wasn't who they thought their mother was, or they have siblings out there they never knew about. They have ancestors in the closet that nobody ever wanted to talk about. I think that humanity is finally waking up, a little bit anyway, here, to the fact that we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. And frankly, this lifetime, it's short, everybody. It is really short, and it's time to appreciate who we are as a human race of spiritual beings having this experience, and who we are in our different, unique gifts and talents. I find it fascinating. I love it. Love going to another country or to another town or another way of worshiping to find out, what are their tenets? What is the basis of their system of spirituality or belief? And some is way off the charted map from anything I was ever taught or learned, but a whole lot of it is very similar. Very similar. Janet is saying, I think more people are spreading their light and it's catching. It only takes one candle to light several. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Yes. I believe the source of that light is the same for all of us. No matter what color our body is, whatever type of hair we have, or eyes, or genealogy. Tana is saying, I think we are drawn to our ancestry and history because our world has become so disconnected. We feel a need for connection. We cannot be solo or live via the computer and internet without a cost. Amen. Amen. I was reading this meme the other day that said, it used to be that we would connect to the internet in order to escape reality, for a form of escapism. And now we're actually connecting to physical reality in order to escape the internet. Exactly what you're talking about. The connection that way. The connection of voice. The way we're connecting right now is a beautiful thing. Getting out there and connecting to grandmother and grandfather up in the skies is a beautiful thing. Even more so, the wisdom of the land that we're walking on, right? It's one grandmother Earth. Grandmother Earth is one being, right? One beautiful being. She's not separate beings, this grandmother. She's one grandmother. We don't say our grandmother's Earth. We say grandmother Earth. She's one amazing, magnificent being. Those ancestors of ours that were known as the Essenes used to refer to her as an angel, Mother Earth, our Heavenly Father and our earthly mother. Wasn't our earthly mother. She's one being that invites the human experience to happen. And we all come here with our stardust to do just that. Oh, good. Anissa is saying the veil between spirit and the incarnated is thinning as we open ourselves to the truth of who we are and the ancestors, among many other spirits and beings, are gleefully helping us remember more and more. This is necessary for healing us and the world, to undo the darkness of being disconnected to spirit. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Anissa. Yes, Del Marie is saying, when people gather under the tree of life, shall there be peace? I think one of the native prophecies is one reason why people are looking at their roots and searching and coming together as human beings to make a better life for our future generations. Right on, Del. And Janet is saying, I've been able to connect to Grandmother Earth so much more since I got my pooch. I love it. Oh my God, your pooch is so adorable. It is amazing how our four-legged and feathery critters, feline and the such, bring us outdoors. They bring us to another understanding. I agree with all of that. And, one of the things I love most, I absolutely love most about Native America, the teachings here of Turtle Island and the teachers. There are always those that come from a place of ego when they're teaching, when they're considered a wise elder. But one of the things that I love in the teachings and the teachers and the elders is this that I've learned. At least in my experience, the wisest of my Hunka relatives in Native America are the most gentle. They teach through song, they teach through gentle ways. They don't slap a wrist, they don't take out a ruler, they don't malign, none of that. It's very gentle in the teaching. They teach through songs, they teach through example, they teach through humor. And it's a beautiful way of being. The prophecies come in stories, ancestral stories. They come in songs. They come in reenactments and ceremonies. I think that that's what we're all searching for, is the mythology. And mythology has its roots in reality and something that only our soul can remember sometimes. We're looking for that. And as we're looking for it, we're finding that everyone else is looking for that. And what ultimately we find is very, very similar. And it's very loving. It's very loving. Next week, we'll continue on with our conversation. Thank you all for shining your light, for bringing your bones of your bones and the blood of your blood here to Grandmother Earth with the wisdom and the stories and the love and the songs, the wisdom that you contain. Trust your soul knows. Spend some time with your soul. Spend some time with your blood and your bones in the quiet. And allow the ancestors to speak and to teach and to be present. With that, everybody, have a beautiful day. Get out there and shine as only you can shine. Blessings be, everybody.